It's everybody's favorite time, deposition time. Everybody loves depositions, especially if you're having your deposition taking and being asked pointed questions under oath with all the pressure that comes along with it. So what is there to do and what do you do? Practice before you are deposed. Have your attorney play the role of the other lawyer and practice. And be mocked to get those questions ahead of time so you know what to expect. We cannot tell you how to answer those questions. That is unethical. But if you've practiced answering those questions, perhaps it will provide you some insight into how you wish to word your answers. For example, if I were to ask you, how was the hockey game yesterday? And your response is, well, my son's pads didn't fit, so I jammed them on, and I really thought he was going to cry because it seemed like they were way too tight, but eventually they worked and I paid $1 million for those hockey pads. Did I ask you about hockey pads? Did I ask you about whether or not you forced them onto your son's rib cage, for example, for a rib protector in hockey? Did I ask you whether or not his gloves were too tight? Did I ask you if his skates were the appropriate size? Did I ask you if he skated well? No, I asked you how your son's hockey game was. Guess what? Not only did you fail to listen to the question, you also failed to answer the question properly. A suitable answer might be the hockey game went great. They lost by a goal, but it was really exciting. Or they won by 3 goals and my son even scored. I was thrilled for him. He is such a good hockey player. Instead, you wanted to blurt out deep, dark, personal details about an event that nobody asked you about. To make matters worse, on top of being overly verbose, you have now given the person deposing you the opportunity to ask, why did you force your son's hockey pads on? Why did you supply your son with equipment that was too small? Why didn't you ask the coach for help? Why didn't you call my client, the mom, and ask if she had any other pads or something that actually fit properly? Why didn't you handle it better? Why did you hurt your son's leg in the process? Do you think that's normal behavior? Do you think it's okay to hurt your son out of expediency? Is this something you do all of the time? Do you take shortcuts with your son's health and safety all of the time? Why did you let your son go into a hockey rink knowing that his pads were too small and there's a severe risk of injury? So not only did you answer the question improperly, you've now launched a dozen more questions and cast aspersions on yourself. Maybe you were otherwise the perfect dad, and in this instance, you just wanted your son to be able to get in the ice. Simple. Nothing malicious, nothing out of turn, nothing untoward, nothing that was directed toward your son's health, safety, and welfare. But by the way that you answered that one deposition question, you have launched a dozen others. And now your answers to other questions might be called into question, and your veracity of those answers to the other questions. And now you might be so skittish and so nervous that all of your other answers are now going to be affected. Doesn't it therefore make sense that a very smart, clever attorney, yours truly, asks you these questions in advance to find out how you're going to answer? Let me give you another example. Say, Becky, just tell me the truth. How was the weather yesterday when you were driving the car? It was pouring out and I knew I couldn't see anything, but I decided to just plow on through several cars in front of me. Is that really a good answer to a deposition question? Now, I'm not going to tell you what to say, but I might encourage you to think about your answers before you say them. And being asked simple, innocuous questions can make somebody feel like they're under suspicion already. It can make somebody answer in a manner which is uncharacteristic of them. Not everybody gets deposed, and not everybody works in the legal field. This is a nerve-wracking situation that calls for a great deal of preparation, a great deal of thoughtfulness. Also, keep in mind, when somebody asks you a question, how was the weather today? Or earlier before you came in? Well, 3 weeks ago was my favorite weather day of the year, and yesterday the weather was raining. Today it was kind of sunny. The skies were partially blue, the clouds partially parted, and I think that much later on it's going to be a warmer day, but I can't say for sure, so I packed my son a raincoat. Is that really an answer to the question? No, that is the question that you wanted to be asked and that you wanted to answer, but it is not the question that was asked of you and not the answer to the question that was asked of you. Practicing listening and practicing your preparation are valuable tools. not to dissuade you from telling the truth, to in fact have you tell the truth in a meaningful way that is clear and concise, not meandering and not off topic, because off topic answers create questions that never should have existed if your attorney had properly prepared you for your deposition.